a bitter, costly election ending with a crucial win in Ohio, President Barack Obama will officially begin his second term in office.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
Like the first, this inauguration will be filled with pomp and pageantry, but it will also give President Obama a second chance to bring a divided America together. Will he find a way to work with Republicans in Congress? One of the first hurdles, a push for stricter gun laws.
This is our first task as a society, keeping our children safe.
But the president's plan is already coming under fire here in Ohio.
The gun bans, the magazine bans, we've been there, we've done that, we've tried it.
We'll look at the battle over gun rights in America next on Capitol Square.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us for Capitol Square on this Sunday. I'm Jim He.
And I'm Tracy Townsend. In less than an hour, President Obama will take the oath of office, officially kicking off his second term as the 44th President of the United States.
Yeah, we should explain. This private ceremony will take place in the Blue Room of the White House. The Constitution requires that the president be sworn in on January 20th.
And since that falls on a Sunday this year, the traditional swearing-in ceremony on the steps of the U.S. Capitol will take place tomorrow in front of hundreds of thousands of spectators. It's all part of the 57th presidential inauguration festivities, which are now underway. And one of the biggest challenges facing the president in his second term will be working with a divided Congress. This week, we asked Senator Rob Portman what advice he would give President Obama on reaching across party lines to Republicans.
Yeah, we actually flipped that question to Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown, asking him what he would tell Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and House Speaker John Boehner.
There's lots of room for outreach on both sides. The president in particular, as you know, by nominating Chuck Hagel, I think has made a mistake. I've said that publicly. I think that is a surprising and unfortunate nomination because it'll cause a lot of concern, not just on the Republican side, by the way, but the Democratic side as well. So one, you want to nominate people who are not going to cause, more conflict, and I think he hasn't done that in this case. Second, I do think that with regard to the fiscal cliff discussions, you saw the president basically took a back seat and allowed Joe Biden to go out and finally work with Republicans on something. He's got to be engaged, and I think he knows that. I hope he will get more engaged going forward.
McConnell needs to recognize the election's over and beating Obama shouldn't be his number one priority. He still seems to kind of think that way. Well, the president, he got to be president for a lot. I mean, people get to be president of the United States. They have a lot of skills, and he's got a lot of skills. He's got negotiating skills. He's a decent, honorable person. He's a good family man. I think the president will find a way. But my concern is that John Boehner is held captive by some far-right people in his party, and in the end, John Boehner's got to be willing to take a bill to the House floor that's got 218 votes, not a majority of not 218 Republicans, but 218 votes overall. And he can't allow a small number of far-right Republicans to stop the House of Representatives from moving forward.
Joining us now, Columbus Dispatch, Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief Jack Torrey. Jack, thank you for joining us this morning.
Great to be here with you.
I want to start with, of course, the official swearing in today. What do you think the president will say tomorrow during his inaugural speech?
Well, one of the things that's been common about most second inaugural speeches is, quite frankly, they're fairly forgettable. Other than Lincoln's in 1865 and FDR's in 1937, they really have not been terrific speeches. My guess is he will try to outline where he wants to take the country in the next 4 years, given the fact that the moment after he's sworn in, he becomes a lame duck. He's got about 16 to 18 months to get things through, like immigration reform, new gun laws, and try to deal with the deficit. And after that, he gets to the off-year elections, and most presidents lose seats in the off-year elections in their second term, and they become increasingly less relevant.
Jack, what strikes me, and by the way, 1961's John F. Kennedy speech was pretty good too, as our viewers voted on and pointed out in our web poll this week. But what strikes me is there was a new Pew poll earlier this week that basically showed that 4 years ago, most Americans felt that President Obama coming in could unite the country and bring us all together. Now that same group of Americans, by the same plurality, only the opposite, believe that he cannot. I mean, is there anything you can say or anything you can do to begin to bridge this partisan red state, blue state gap?
I doubt it. I think that what you've seen for the first 4 years is what you're going to get for the next 4 years. The two parties are deeply divided on ideological issues, on taxes, on spending, on defense spending. And kind words and nice words aren't going to bridge those gaps. Secondly, I think whether he thought he could unite the country 4 years ago, or whether that was simply a campaign slogan, we don't know. We won't know for sure until his memoirs are written. But the fact is, it's very difficult for a Democratic president to deal with a Republican House, or vice versa, a Republican president with a Democratic House. It's not necessarily a very pretty thing to watch.
Jack, I'm interested in sort of your insight on the fact that this president, when he took office 4 years ago, campaigned on one thing, got into office, targeted the Affordable Health Care reform, and this time he's going to take office, or be sworn in again, and is now tackling gun control. What is it about President Obama that makes him sort of just take charge on issues that really do seem to be relatively divisive?
Well, I think because, first of all, he firmly believes in them. I mean, he campaigned very strenuously in 2008 on overhauling the healthcare system, something that Presidents Truman, Nixon, and Clinton had all tried to do, to extend insurance to those without coverage. And in many ways, he very much succeeded. Now, there are a lot of people who don't like the price tag to the Affordable Care Act, but that's the reality. So I think he genuinely believes this. On guns, his position on guns has been, in the first 4 years, has been, hey, I don't want to deal with that issue. It's a no-win situation for the Democratic Party. But the Newtown massacre has forced him to act, and he has acted forcefully on this. The question is, has the public momentum changed enough to force the House and the Senate to adopt some gun restrictions that might have been unthinkable 4 years ago?
Jack, we're down to less than a minute, but where do Republicans play in this? The last two-term Democratic President Bill Clinton, they did not like sitting on the sidelines at all. They hired Ken Starr, and we had lots of investigations. We spent a year of impeachment proceedings with Bill Clinton back in 1998. I mean, is that the type of environment we're looking toward here, where Republicans are just waiting to pounce on anything?
Well, I think the Republicans are in such a state of disarray right now. They had a retreat at the end of last week down in Williamsburg, Virginia, and it's to figure out how to deal with this. The reality is the Republicans only control the House. The Democrats control the Senate, and they control the White House. So there's a limited, they can stop certain things from happening, but they cannot impose their will upon the process, because if a president is determined not to make deep spending cuts in the entitlement programs of Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, the House Republicans can't make that happen. I don't think you're going to see a rerun of Clinton 2. But what will happen is second terms, for the most part, are not terribly successful.
All right. Columbus Dispatch, Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief Jack Torrey, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Jack.
Glad to be here.
Governor John Kasich hopes President Obama will work with states like ours during his second term.
Yeah, I talked to him earlier this week about this inauguration. I was amazed at his tone, perhaps one of the best statements I think that the governor has given, talking about the fact that we have to respect the presidency.
I've always been taught as a kid, you respect your elders, you respect people in authority. I don't mean you have to go along with them, but respect's a very important part, I think, of what we have lost in this country.
The governor went on to say that he's very concerned, Tracy, about how social media, things like Facebook and Twitter, has created an environment, and we sort of live it every day, where people just kind of give their opinions, but you get the sense they're not really listening to anybody else's point of view.
It's all about post and tweet as often as you can.
Right.
The governor will not be attending the inauguration. He is on his way to Switzerland to deliver a speech.
All right, so tomorrow President Obama will get a second chance to give that inaugural address to the country. Only 16 presidents, in fact, before him have had the same opportunity.
The inaugural address is a time for the president to put forth his vision for the U.S. Many great inaugural addresses have been delivered throughout the years.
Yeah, so for this week in our web poll question, we asked you, what is the most memorable line from an inaugural speech? Here's the top pick.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
John F. Kennedy delivered that line back on January 20th, 1961. Interestingly enough, it was the fourth shortest inaugural address ever delivered, but it's widely considered to be among the best in history.
The second most memorable line from an inaugural speech, according to our web poll, was made 28 years earlier.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Franklin Roosevelt delivered that line in 1933 at the depth of the Great Depression.
Yeah, in his first 100 days, FDR spearheaded the New Deal. And by the way, he was our only president who was elected 4 times.
Here is how the other memorable lines did in our web poll question. With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in. Abraham Lincoln said this during his second inauguration, just as 4 years of civil war were coming to a close.
Yeah, back in 1981, Ronald Reagan delivered this line: "I do not believe in a fate that will fall on us no matter what we do. I do believe in a fate that will fall on us if we do nothing." Should point out, this is kind of interesting. Reagan came into office back in January 1981 with a 62% approval rating. Ronald Reagan left office in January 1989 with a 63% approval rating. I have a feeling modern presidents would love to duplicate that. That was very difficult to do.
Yes, yes. Well, Jim and I are going to be traveling to Washington, D.C. to bring you live reports on the inauguration starting tonight at 11.
Bags are packed. You ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right. Tune in next Sunday for a special look at the inauguration right here, special edition of Capitol Square from our nation's capital.
As President Obama prepares for his second inauguration, some questions. Can he work together with the House GOP? And will that relationship impact the midterm elections? Our political strategists are here to debate that topic and so much more. That's coming up in 2 sides.
And next, the fight over gun rights. President Obama calls for sweeping changes this week, but could members of his own party stand in the way?